welcome in. It is another brand new edition of the 901 Soccer Podcast, and I'm your host, Lawrence Dockery. You can find me on Twitter at LDoc93. You can find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. You can search Bluff City Media on Twitter at Bluff City_media, and you can find everybody on Facebook as well. Just search 901 Soccer. We'll pop right up, and search Bluff City Media. We'll pop right up. You should follow on Twitter. You should like and subscribe on Facebook. And if you're watching this podcast, you're probably watching it on YouTube. So go ahead and like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and definitely please comment on the video. All comments are welcome, whether they're good or bad. If they're good, I'll be positive and thank you. And if they're bad, I'll tell you you're an idiot. But, to each their own. I welcome any and all comers. All right, so what we got for you tonight, Memphis 901 FC in the U.S. Open Cup defeats Miami United 2-0 down at AutoZone Park. Unfortunately, do not have an attendance figure for you just quite yet, but as soon as that is made available to me, I will make it available to you. Got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about the lead up to it just a little bit. Some of the rumors that were swirling around Miami United. Talk about how the game went. I think it was a pretty competent professional performance from 901 FC tonight. Knight Pickering got 2 goals. We'll talk all about that. Take a look at the upcoming schedule just a little bit. And then I have some choice, strong words for this Miami United team. I didn't have an opinion on them coming into tonight, but I sure do after the game. And we'll get there at the end. So we'll just get right into it. Tonight was the first time that Memphis 901 FC hosted a U.S. Open Cup game since 2019, their inaugural season in the USL Championship. That year, they hosted all three of their Open Cup games. They hosted the New York Red Bulls U23 team at AutoZone Park and beat them in that game. Then they hosted Hartford Athletic out at Mike Rose and beat them in that game. And, of course, hosted Orlando City from MLS out at Mike Rose, drew an overcapacity crowd of 3,088, I think. The capacity of the stadium at Mike Rose is only 2,500 people, so that was mega impressive. They fell in that game, unfortunately. The referee for that game was also the referee for Memphis 901 FC's game against Indy 11 this year. If you want to go back and check out that podcast from last month, and what a disaster class that was. But so Memphis 901 FC, unfortunately, since 2019 had not hosted a U.S. Open Cup game, and last year did not even apply to host any of the 3 games in which they played. Their scheduling at AutoZone Park with a soccer team and a baseball team is tough. I understand that, especially when these are games that are being put onto the schedule at the last minute. But as we saw in 2019, you can host games at Mike Rose. Granted, I'm sure there's probably a check that has to be cut for that to be done. But again, I don't have anything. This is just my gut, and it didn't work, so I'm unhappy about it. But if it had worked, then it would have been it was probably a great idea. My gut tells me the reason that no games were played even applied for last year was a way to try to gain extra leverage in getting the soccer stadium built, because you can go see, if we had our own stadium, we would be able to apply and get to host these games. Unfortunately, the Grizzlies put the kibosh on all of that. And, because the second richest owner in the NBA definitely needs to extort $750 million from an already financially strapped city that is, as we found out from the mayor just several days ago, going to have a $30 million budget shortfall. But that is not the road we want to go down this evening. So anyway, we get Open Cup at home this year. A lot of positives coming into tonight off the field. On the field, the results, not great. We'll touch on that in a minute as well. Don't worry. I had several season ticket holders reach out to me and go, hey, these tickets are free for us. Like they're included as part of our season ticket package, which is something that when I interviewed Jay Mims back in February, I want to say, that was something that he made a point to say, look, one of the things that we're going to do for the season ticket holders this year is they get priority for playoff games, they get Open Cup tickets included, and they get any exhibition games we have included. And it's nice to see that was borne out. Other than Paul Young, I think that Jay Mims is probably the hardest working man in the city. So kudos to him. I don't have an official attendance figure for you tonight. It was looking rough at kickoff, but it got much better as the game went on, and it looked probably about like what the other crowds have been this year, which granted have not been great, but you always expect the Open Cup figures to be, a hair or two or four below what everybody else, what your regular season average is. So that was, I don't know if encouraging is the right word, but it certainly wasn't discouraging. But you find out that not only do you get to host, but you're hosting Miami United. Now, Miami United, if you read my preview, which you can check out at bluffcitymedia.com, is Miami is something of an enigma. You can go back and rewatch the episode I did when the draw happened, probably about 2 weeks ago. And they're an enigma for a variety of reasons. A, we're not sure what league they play in. And that may sound strange. Like, how do you not know what league a team plays in? There's got to be a way to figure it out, right? Well, their team's Twitter page says they're in the NPSL, but also said they've competed in the NSL. When U.S. Soccer held the draw, it said they were in the USSSL, which I didn't even know was a league. What is that? Just the United States Soccer League? I didn't know that was a thing. Their Wikipedia page has not been updated since before COVID, so we're talking 5-6 years since the Wikipedia page was last updated. The team website initially, when you land on the team website, it's in my computer, both on my device, on my actual computer, and on my phone, thought that it was in all Italian. I don't know why that was the case. But then you also run into the fact that the schedule takes you to last year's schedule, and you still don't know. We were discussing this in the press box, and I believe it was somebody in some way, shape, or form affiliated with Miami United got very upset with us for not knowing what league they were, and he very haughtily said, "It's the USSL." Like, okay there, Jimbo. But like your team's social media page says nothing about the USSL. So please do not get upset with us for not knowing what league you're in when your own Twitter feed doesn't know what league you're in. Tell us, there needs to be some sort. I understand this is, and the thing is, if this had been like a league game, this would have been, we would have already known what league they were in. But here, let me show you y'all have heard me on the show this season complain about the game notes that other teams have sent, specifically Vegas and Indy. Here is Miami United's. See, if you notice, this looks to be just like a form that you can get from U.S. Soccer. And if you look down in this column right here, I'm going backwards. This column right here, you notice that the numbers had to be handwritten in and then crossed out and then re-handwritten in. And I understand that they're an amateur team, but that's amateur hour. I don't even know if I can use pun intended there, but I don't think it's all that hard to look at the jersey that your guy is going to wear and say, this guy, this number. At U.S. youth soccer events that I have refereed at, everybody's got to have a roster with a number on it. Now, normally, this would have been insanely frustrating for me. If this had been a league game, as it was with Vegas and Indy, I'd have been bitching and moaning and screaming. But this is the Open Cup. We can go spin zone, and it's the magic of the Open Cup. This is the goofy stuff that we love about the Open Cup. So it was, as much as it sounds like I was just complaining about it, I actually thought it was kind of funny. Open Cup. The other thing, of course, that Miami was known for is, and this was just a guy that runs like a sports gambling Twitter account. We never saw anybody in the larger Miami media address this. U.S. Soccer didn't publicly address this. So I don't know the truth of it, but there were those rumors and reports and allegations of suspicious betting activity on Miami United's last game in the U.S. Open Cup against Club de Lyon. And my understanding, and I don't know offhand, but my understanding is that somebody tried to place a 6-figure bet on a second round U.S. Open Cup game between like a team from Nisa and an amateur team. So automatically that's like major red flag. Who's placing 6-figure bets on second round U.S. Open Cup games? It's like, I love the Open Cup and I'm very pro U.S. Open Cup, but come on, that's degenerate stuff. What little reporting and investigating there was done in this matter seemed to suggest that when that got flagged, there were several individuals that went into a Hard Rock casino in Florida and placed individual bets on that game. Now, what it sounds like, and again, no one's told me this specifically, this is just from my perusing of this one guy, is that they bet on themselves to win and they won. This isn't like the dude that just got kicked out of the NBA today. It's a little bit different, but you got to figure if there's a list of top 5 things that you can't do, betting on games that you're involved in is probably on there. Excuse me. But that's all we really knew about Miami United coming into this game, is that there were interesting words swirling around about suspicious betting activity on one of their previous U.S. Open Cup games. There was also discussion this evening that there were odds to be had on all of the U.S. Open Cup games except one. You get 3 guesses on which one that was. And if you guessed the team that had suspicious betting activity in their previous U.S. Open Cup game, you would be correct. So that was the interest coming into tonight, aside from the excitement of getting to host a U.S. Open Cup game. And the game itself, I would say I would describe it as a competent professional performance from 901 FC. It's one thing I asked Coach Glass after the game is how difficult is it to prepare for a team like this, considering that you've never seen them before and you're probably never going to see them again because they are an amateur side and nobody's really sure what league they play in. And he said, it's a little bit tough, but we did watch their last Open Cup game. And I think he said the camera work wasn't great, but it is what it is. And, one of the things that he has said several times throughout, in the preseason and in the early part of the regular season is you just got to rely on stuff that and that that you can do well. And I think they did that tonight. What I will say, I was impressed with Miami in that they created more chances than I thought they were going to. Tyler Derrick probably had his best game as 901 FC goalkeeper, made in the first half at least probably 3 or 4 or 5 quality saves. There was a sequence where he had to make, I think, 2 or 3 in a row. So that was impressive. Impressive from him, a little bit concerning from the back line. But I was surprised at the speed that Miami had. Now, one of the things that inevitably happens when you have a professional team playing an amateur team is the fitness. As you had probably starting at about the 50th, 55th minute, a lot of the Miami dudes going down, cramping. This I thought was, I didn't know if I thought it was funny or if it was odd, or you can just chalk it all up as the magic of the Open Cup. But Miami either did not have a trainer with them, or they brought a trainer and he just had no medical trainer regalia equipment. Because several times Miami players went down and 901 FC's trainer had to go check on them. And this wasn't like real serious injury right in front of the Memphis bench and I'm the first one that's there and I'm going to check on them. No, this was like referee waves the trainer on, oh, Miami, your guy either isn't here or he isn't prepared. Memphis, bring your guy and let's check this dude out. I thought that was entertaining. Knight Pickering got 2 goals. Which was good to see, especially, in league play, the goal scoring had tapered off. There's no getting around that. They did pick up a goal this past weekend through Samuel Carriaga. Got a nice free kick goal against Loudoun, even though they lost the game. But Pickering's back on the score sheet. for the first time since the season opener against Las Vegas when he won Goal of the Week. So that was good. And those were two very good goals. It always makes me laugh. Inevitably, the defender that keeps the attacker onside in an attack on a goal, it never fails that defender is the one with his arm up looking at the AR going, why is that not offside? Well, bro, maybe if you actually stepped and weren't keeping this dude onside, you wouldn't have to put your arm up because the AR would be putting his arm up because it's got his flag at the end of it. But that was not the case. And Knight Pickering gets it. I think Emerson Hyndman with a nice through ball, and Knight Pickering gets his first goal. Halftime, Luis Fernando gets subbed out. Dylan Borsak comes in. And I feel like I said after the Orange County game that I really like Dylan Borsak in that off-the-bench role. Any number of sports, every team always has that quote-unquote spark plug guy. I think Dylan Borsak fits that bill really well. And he started making things happen down the right-hand side. And eventually they paid off, and he had a great ball to Knight Pickering. How I understand that Miami's an amateur outfit, but how you can leave Knight Pickering completely unmarked in the 6-yard box, or in the 18-yard box, I should say, is a mystery. And Knight made him pay for it, as he should. And so that's 2-0. And then Dylan Borsak had two really great chances that I still don't know how they didn't go in. One would have been goal of the round for sure. That went about 4 inches wide of the post. And then he had one that hit the inside of the post and kind of just spun there for a second. That's one of those ones that you go, how does that not go in? Like, you did everything right as the player and the ball just failed you. But all in all, a little bit concerning that Miami got as many chances as they did, just a little bit. But I still think I was getting a little, guys, I'm not going to lie. You know how I have been very bullish on this team's chances since since the offseason. I've said it's the best offseason they ever had, and I was convinced that they're going to have a very good year this year. My faith was starting to waver. I won't lie. I was getting nervous. 4 straight losses will put the fear into you. But I wasn't ready to jump ship. And I think tonight we saw what this team can be. Granted, again, it's against an amateur side. I understand that. But what you needed tonight was a complete, competent, professional performance. And I think that's what we got. They, and one thing that I will say that I was impressed about, and this was something Coach Glass addressed after the game, is this Miami. Well, before we get into that, one thing that I think we saw 901 FC last year do this. They started off just a little bit rough, and then they got into the Open Cup, and the Open Cup really kick-started their season. They won that game at Knoxville, started winning, getting results in the league games, and then they pulled off the cup set against Atlanta United. And in the middle of all of that, they had a 12-game unbeaten streak in league play. And I don't know that they'll have another 12-game unbeaten streak play in league play this year, but I think tonight was big in that it can get this team back on track, reestablish that winning mindset. So that's what in addition to, this being a good performance, and you're still alive in the U.S. Open Cup. And let's be real. I'm sure CONCACAF and MLS and U.S. Soccer will pull the rug out from our collective feet at the appropriate time, at the end of all of this. But hey, for right now, this is probably the best chance Memphis 901 FC is ever going to have at earning a spot in the CONCACAF Champions League. The CONCACAF Champions Cup. Because there's only 8 MLS teams in this edition of the tournament. So if the U.S. Open Cup winner still gets that Champions League berth, I kind of joke about it all the time. There exists a legitimate pathway for Memphis 901 FC to be in the Champions League or be in the Club World Cup. Remote, yes, obviously that's it's like 1 in 640 billion or something like that. But, the pathway exists. There's no reason that it couldn't. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it won't happen, but there's no reason why it couldn't happen. So this is probably, I'm still high on this team. We got talented players. And if they get hot and make a run, you get some results elsewhere. get the right matchup, you could make a seriously deep run and challenge, and this might be the best chance to win the Open Cup and get a Champions League berth. And not because they won't be good in the future or not be anything like that, but just there's fewer teams from the league above you participating, and just so it's just a numbers game. So if you can kickstart your season, get a good matchup here or there, get a favorable matchup, get results elsewhere. The sky's the limit. This could be the next great story in the magic of the U.S. Open Cup. How cool would that be? Memphis 901 FC we saw the Sacramento Republic go all the way to the U.S. Open Cup final 2 years ago. So it could happen. The last thing I want to close out with this before we close it out is to hell with this Miami United team. Okay. These guys pissed me off the second half of this game. And this is something that you knew was going to come because it's an amateur team. And when that second goal from Knight Pickering went in, they were like, this game is over. And at that point, what incentive, I guess you could say, do they have to not show their ass? That's something that maybe that's just the referee in me. I thought the game was pretty well officiated tonight. I didn't have any. I had one or two people asking me about it. I was like, no, 4 yellow cards in a row does make you think, but Miami wanted, that's goes back to the competent professional performance put on by Memphis. Is you would have that's pros versus amateurs. The amateur defenders are getting beat, so they just got to haul dudes down. Those are easy yellow cards every time. I don't think that's an indication that anybody has lost control of the game. That's a tactical foul that's stopping a promising attack, and the card's going to come out. Where I think 901 FC really, and this is something that Coach Glass had high praise for his players on in the post game, was that once it went to 2-0, you knew that they were going to start doing stupid shit. Them being Miami United. And sure enough, they did. And they looked like they had pulled a goal back, but not only did the dude just like more blatant than Diego Maradona at the 1986 World Cup against England, dude just went bonk with the ball into the goal. And had he not been offside, the goal would have been ruled out because he bonked it in. And then all of a sudden, they just swarmed Tyler Derrick and Tulu and wanted to fight them for no reason at all. Other than the fact that they just were being pissy that they were losing. And what's going to happen to them? They're an amateur team. Nobody knows what league they play in. If they get red carded, so what? So I thought that was very good man management by Tyler Derrick in that situation. In addition to the good saves that he had, he was like, Tulu, don't do anything stupid. Let them show their ass. Don't get suspended. We're still alive in this tournament. They're going to take their janky-ass bus ride 18 hours all the way back to Miami and go gamble on some other U.S. Open Cup games. Let them be stupid. Let them self-destruct. Stay away. And Tulu got his yellow. Deserved. The Miami guy got his yellow. Deserved. But that's one where you get nervous. And as I'm sitting up there in the press box, and I'm just like, let's get out of here without stupid shit happening. And for the most part, I think we did. After the game, Coach Glass in the postgame, I kind of got a kick out of this. When the game was over, you shake the opposing manager's hand. Win 7-0, lose 7-0, 8 people get sent off. You just do it. It's basic. It's simple. You shake the dude's hand. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to look at him. You just shake his hand and you go. It takes all of 3 seconds. And it was Stephen Glass walks over because he's a professional and he is, understands and respects the game. Goes over, shake the opposing manager's hand, and the dude is like, no, and just starts to walk away. And I got a kick out of it in the postgame. Somebody asked him about it, and he just said, no, I don't think anybody really got into it. Just the opposing manager felt like he needed to tell me. He felt it was more important to tell me how to act than shake my hand. And he just shrugged, and we all kind of got a laugh out of it. See, this is why it's so fun covering games in person, because you get to experience stuff like that. But magic of the Open Cup. And then, there was a little bit of a coming together, but nothing wild or crazy happened. Thank goodness. The referees were there to make sure that nothing wild or crazy happened, and everybody got out of there. But once that second goal went in, Miami showed their ass, plain and simple. They tried doing stupid stuff. I did get a kick out. One of their guys got a yellow card because he wanted a corner kick, and it was so very obviously a goal kick that he started like waving his arm and jumping up and down and throwing a tantrum like a 4-year-old. And that was probably the easiest yellow card that referee's ever going to have to give. And I thought it was hilarious. But I understand that you're amateurs, but what a bunch of petulant little crybabies. Take your janky ass bus ride back to Miami. If you flew here, you don't deserve to fly back. Get on the bus and go home. That annoyed me. Annoyed. Maybe it annoyed me more. Maybe I'm making something out of nothing, but that irritated the hell out of me. It really did. Both as someone who's covered 901 FC and someone who's been a referee for as long as I have. Both sides of my brain were going, this is just annoying. What are you doing? Like you are accomplishing nothing with this. This isn't like a 7-game Stanley Cup playoff series where if you can get dude kicked out and get him suspended for like 2 or 3 games, like whatever, like Miami benefited nothing from showing their ass other than I guess maybe they made themselves feel better about it. Oh, one other thing that I just remembered. Walking out after we get done, I'm walking out of the stadium with Jonah Dillon from the Commercial Appeal. He's a couple of steps ahead of me, and I hold the door to let somebody in a Miami United jacket, and the dude just like bumps me and like doesn't even say thank you and just like storms off. And I'm like, dude, I get that you lost, but it's common courtesy. Somebody holds the door for you, you say thank you, jackass. So that was that, and I am, for one, am not sad to see this team go. Perhaps, I don't know. I don't want to say that. That might get me in trouble, so I'm not going to say that. But that I think is that's all I got for you here on this episode. We're just about 30 minutes, so thanks everybody for tuning in. The next 901 FC home game is this Saturday. That's April 20th. 420, bro. Haha. I must be the coolest high schooler ever. So this Saturday, April 20th, 7 p.m. kickoff against Monterey Bay. Unfortunately, I will not be at that game. This is probably the first game I've missed since the Charleston Battery game in June last year when I was at regionals in Baton Rouge. So I do apologize for that, but the fiance and I have had a trip planned. So that's what we're doing. So I do apologize that I'll be missing that game, but it is the next 901 FC home game. That's this Saturday. I believe the U of M men's and women's soccer teams will be honored at this game. The women's team went to their second straight Sweet 16. The men's team went to their second straight NCAA tournament and won a game for the very first time. So soccer over at the U of M, over at South Campus is getting hot, and they are deserving of your support, as is 901 FC. So you should definitely go. I will be back for the May 4th home game against the Tampa Bay Rowdies. That is our last 3 p.m. kickoff of the year. And one or two other scheduling notes. The Wednesday, May 8th game on the road at Miami FC has been, rescheduled to August to accommodate U.S. Open Cup. I don't know. The last I saw, Miami FC was losing tonight to South Georgia Tormenta, I think. Which is kind of lucky because that's who we could have been drawn against. So I'm glad we got the team that showed their ass and not the team that actually tried to win a game. So the window for the next round of the Open Cup is May 7th and 8th. Do we get another home game? I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say probably not, because the Redbirds are at home May 7th through May 12th. That could leave Mike Rose could be an option, but I don't know. They may apply, they may not. Even if they do apply, there's no guarantee that they wouldn't be on the road anyway. But May 7th or May 8th, that's a Tuesday and Wednesday, will be the next round of the U.S. Open Cup. 901 FC will be participating. That is the most important thing. I think the draw is tomorrow being Thursday, but I don't know what time. You could probably find out if you watch on U.S. Soccer. So if and when information is available on that front, I'll knock something together and post it over at the Bluff City Media website. And unfortunately, like I said, won't be there to see you on April the 20th, this Saturday against Monterey Bay. Just because I won't there doesn't mean that you can't be there. You should definitely go. You can take my word for it. And then, but I will be back for May the 4th against the Tampa Bay Rowdies. So that is going to wrap it up for us here tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm your host, Lawrence Dockery. Find me on Twitter at LDoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. Find Bluff City Media on Twitter at Bluff City_media. And we're on Facebook, too. 901 Soccer on Facebook and Bluff City Media on Facebook. If you're watching this, you're on YouTube. So feel free to like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel. That helps because Bluff City Media doesn't just cover Memphis 901 FC, though I thoroughly enjoy doing so. We got a lot of other people covering a lot of other stuff. You've got, obviously, the Grizzlies season just wrapped up, mercifully, after all the injuries they had this year. You had Tiger basketball, you got Tiger football, you've got showboats. If there's sports coverage in Memphis, Bluff City Media is probably going to be there. The soccer is more than likely going to be. And as I say that, I have to miss the next game. So anyway, that is okay. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. If you like the video, watch the video, comment, subscribe, share, become an insider on the Bluff City Media website, all of that stuff. If you're a sponsor and would like to sponsor this show or any other shows, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to talk turkey with you. Until next time, talk to you later.